Good evening, everybody.
Welcome to Smarten Up Show here on the Messianic Lamb Network and School Pods Canada Facebook group page. And where else are we broadcasting?
We have a YouTube channel, and we have
School Pods, yes.
Smoke Signals and
YouTube channel. Anyway, you would like to see what we're all about, what we're talking about. What does it mean to smarten up?
Yes, indeed. And tonight we have a tremendous show. We're going to be talking about something that's oh so important. There's just so much coming at us right now in the way of trying to get us to believe things that aren't true.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people in the past 3 years have become aware that things we had trust in, we need to really examine and make sure that we have the truth, because the truth is becoming more rare nowadays, and there are different narratives, there are different stories, and raising children in this type of environment, it's most parents will admit it's a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Teaching children right and wrong is a challenge nowadays because the world doesn't quite follow the right and wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And that is because of what we want to talk about today: reality versus unreality, and how it seems like unreality is starting to take over reality, and it's becoming even harder to really define what reality is, and everyone is starting to speak about my truth, your truth, subjectivity, and we need to embrace all kinds of ideas. But all ideas, are they worth embracing, and are they all dealing with truth? I think that needs to be our concern.
Mm-hmm.
And as a famous verse line in the Bible, when Pontius Pilate had to speak with Jesus, with Yeshua, he asked, "What is truth?" When Yeshua claimed, I have come to proclaim truth, I am the truth.
Mm-hmm.
He asked, "What is truth?" And I think at this point, our society has come to a point where everybody's asking, what is truth?
Mm-hmm. And it's becoming harder and harder to find, because more and more of what we're being told and what we're exposed to is unreality. There is a massive push, and has been for several generations now, to get us to focus on unreality. We were just looking at a meme yesterday that someone showed regarding the TV show The Big Bang Theory.
Right.
And how very innocuously in the background
they had some formulas written down on a whiteboard in the background, and because it's a show about educated kids who like learning, and they call them nerds, right?
Science geeks and stuff like that. But on the board, what it was showing was, and this is before all this happened, and it said something about PCR testing and everything else. And so the caption on it is that, well, they have to tell us what they're going to do. And the globalists, the people who run the world and who have a very specific agenda, which is not in our best favor, have this code of conduct. If you actually look into Freemasonry, it talks about how they have this belief, almost like karmatic belief, that if they don't tell us what they're going to do, and then we don't say anything about it, then it's going to come back on them. It's going to, kind of reap what you sow type thing, which is a biblical principle, by the way. But what they're saying is that even if they tell us in a twisted, convoluted, really sneaky way, then, well, as long as we don't object, well, we told you.
Yes. And the issue is at this point, though, when people are realizing that things are being told, a lot of them are not true. Even things are being stated overtly and in shows,
Mm-hmm.
and different kind of art forms and
Mm-hmm.
so forth. People are likely to miss it because then they'll ask, is this true, or is it something that is just there?
Well,
what am I to believe? What am I?
And a lot of the what's called predictive programming, and this is what they do, they predict what they're going to do in the programming, and that's why it's called the TV program. That was, one of the primary reasons why television was invented to begin with, was so that they could program us to think a certain way.
Well,
now,
initially it was to sell products and
for advertising,
advertising, yes,
but
purposes.
but very clearly, and it even goes back before the advent of television with Hollywood, and then the movie industry. I mean, where does the name Hollywood come from? The wood of the holly tree was used in magic wands. I mean, it's all about magic, and Disney kind of personifies the whole culture, that we have this fantasy, we have unreality, we have, lose yourself in your own
your imagination, or whatever, or imaginary world. And so, and this is one of the things we talked about, we wanted to talk about today, is that pretty much every form of entertainment that we have, whether it be sports, whether it be arts, whether it be, is promoting unreality, and really blurring of the lines between what's real and true and what is imaginary. And so we are being entertained, and I know Dr. Michael Lake calls that technosorcery. Which is
slumber that we are under.
We're almost hypnotized by these things, because and one point I wanted to make, as you were speaking about how people are escaping in reality and so forth, because our reality is also becoming a lot harsher to deal with.
For sure.
And anyone here who has a family with young children, I personally know people who have said, I don't think I want to have children because of the world, where it's going. I don't think I want to subject my children to that type of world. And so this is a sign of the times, because there were times when, I mean, we all used to, most people in society wanted to have family, wanted to have children. That was the goal in life, because we all enjoy the closeness of family, the holidays, traditions, and to come to a point where people are saying, I'm afraid to have children now, because I don't know what they have to face, and I don't think it's a good thing to bring children in this world. So one thing is that we are not being told the truth, and everything is being kind of manipulated. But the other thing is, our reality has become so harsh that we are being pushed to look towards entertainment, unreality, imagination, creating this artificial,
the metaverse.
Yeah, I mean, that is what Facebook calls its platform now, Meta.
Which almost has this transitory element to it, where it encompasses everything.
What does meta mean? Other, or so it's another world. And I have to tell you that, I teach kids now, and when we watch videos, the kids know this is AI voice. You know, there's a lot of AI now in what is being produced, and I know what has happened is in some universities and colleges, professors are now being replaced by AI teacher, professor. There's even talk about bringing that into regular public schools. I want to watch AI deal with behavior issues, but anyway, just a little side note. In a gentle parenting type of way. And so everything, and I'm even seeing, even on my Facebook feed, things about how we shouldn't fear AI. AI is actually a very positive thing for us. And then on the other side of my mind, there's the what was the movie with Will Smith, iRobot? So all these years ago, we were we were warned that technology and advancement in science and technology could go out of hand, but now we're saying, no, it's a good thing. Don't have any worries about it.
So the Merriam-Webster definition of meta is showing or suggesting an explicit awareness of oneself, as a member of its category, cleverly self-referential. So it's self-awareness.
Well, it is self-awareness, but it's also like you define your world, like your self-world.
Yep. And one of the greatest, I think, examples of that is the trilogy, The Matrix.
Mm.
And that whole movie series was designed, again, predictive programming for them to tell you what it is they're doing. I mean, people think, oh, it was really weird and everything else. No, this is exactly what's going on.
If something seems a little weird, watch for it.
Yeah, well, exactly. So last week we discussed lying to your children.
Well, and yes, I wanted to kind of catch up on that because you weren't here with us, and you'll see.
I hear you had a great co-host.
I had an amazing co-host, and he was talking. Our son was giving a perspective of how young people are dealing with this whole make-believe stuff. And we were talking about Santa in particular, and he was telling a story about his friend. So that was neighbors in our previous neighborhood. Right. When her family made this whole big deal about Christmas. And one year, his friend, she came up to our son and said, I know Santa Claus is not real, but I'm not going to tell my mom because she would be upset about it. I want her to keep going, and creating this, because it makes my mom happy. We've come to a point.
So Yossi shows up at their house one day and he's looking at all the decorations and he says, it looks like Christmas threw up all over your house.
Well, we'll talk about what's good manners, and how to speak the truth in love, and but anyway.
But he was only about 10 at the time, so I mean.
I know he was young, and he meant it as a joke. But anyway.
Because someone said that on Facebook one time.
But for me, the thought was, it's interesting that our children now have to be more mature to watch out for the feelings of the parents, because they're aware that everybody follows their feelings, and feelings are very, very important. Yeah, which they are. But I think the importance is being put on feelings versus reality. Has become big, and now children are having to deal with this. And so my co-host and I, it was last week, we spoke about the fact that perhaps it's a good idea to develop family traditions not based on in creating this imaginary world and really downright lying to one another, but having truthful, sincere, and open traditions and communication and support for one another. So this holiday season that we're in right now, and it's, I don't know, Christmas started right after Halloween finished.
Yeah, it's they have now blended kind of right into each other, where and they extend too, because one time, even when I was younger, and wasn't that many decades ago, that Halloween, you really kind of got going maybe around the 15th of the month. It was a couple weeks before. Okay, so now now you start to see Halloween decorations
at the end of the summer,
after Labor Day.
Yeah, back to school. And let's talk about
the spirit of Halloween are all these stores that start popping up, and it's 2 months before. And then as like the moment October 31st is done and November 1st arrives, the black and gold or the black and orange purple, decorations come down, and boom, the Christmas decorations go up, and you've got 2 months of nonstop Christmas. And we have neighbors down the street that did that exactly thing.
And last week we also talked about that, how there is a connection from Halloween, and which was Krampus. Yeah, is what we talked about, and Krampus is really kind of like the evil part of Santa Claus, and so we chatted about that there's nothing really good about that, and because there is a connection between scaring children and scaring people, and then which leads us into Christmas, right? So No wonder people are starting to try to go into unreality when reality looks something like this. You want to share that?
Whew.
Um,
Boy, oh boy.
and really, what does this look like?
Mm.
Here.
My God. Yeah.
Oh, the mic got disconnected.
Yeah. There we go.
There it is. We're back with the mic. So yeah, when your reality looks like this, and the reason we mentioned Krampus last week is because I saw an article how here in Niagara Falls, Ontario, there was Krampus at a Santa Claus parade. And, on social media, a lot of people were really appalled that that would be it. But that's been a tradition. Krampus, I think, has been a tradition before even Santa Claus came around.
This is the origins of Santa Claus. And yes, I've heard it. And listen, I cover all this extensively in my book, The Red Mark on God's Forehead. I have a whole chapter dedicated to Christmas. And I talk about that Santa Claus is really a modernization of the god Odin or Woden, which is the Norse god, and that what is depicted over in Europe, so Krampus is Austrian,
yeah,
and perhaps Czech, but you had a very similar tradition growing up in Bulgaria.
It's all over Central and Eastern Europe. Yes, there is this time, and there's a lot of superstition. So one thing I was blaming people having so many superstitious. Actually, there was something with Santa Claus in there with picture. Anyway, there's Krampus looking like Santa Claus. But anyway, so one of the things as a child, obviously, there was a lot of superstition in Eastern Europe and I blamed all that on communism and the fact that communism denied the existence of God.
Yeah.
And so that spiritual aspect of people was being denied. And so people were turning to a lot of paganism and superstition to fulfill their need for spiritual, their spiritual needs. So as a child, especially my grandparents lived in the mountain regions where agriculture was very big, weather especially. And so they believed in in spirits, invoking spirits to give us favorable I guess weather and favorable conditions for the harvest for the next year. To be, now this is called totems. I don't think that's what it looks. And that's actually kind of hard to see. I probably would like you to show a full picture of like something like this. Well, no, it was men who were dressed. This is it.
Okay.
It's a little bit of a small picture though. Men dressed in animal fur, with masks on, with bells, and they were dancing down the street where my grandparents were. I was raised by my grandparents anyway. And so I remember, first of all, they looked scary.
Yeah, I mean, look at this.
Second, the bells that they had around their waist and they were dancing and parading down the street created such cacophony and such noise that the noise itself created this frequency and atmosphere that I was just terrified as a child. Perhaps I've had a few nightmares because of that tradition. And so we believed. And see, this time, and this is what we talked last week, is the fact that this time, I mean, everybody will notice at 4:30 in the afternoon, the sun's already going down. We are getting to the winter solstice, to the shortest day of the year. And because darkness is coming over and the light, there's less light for us. A lot of people are starting to feel down. They're starting to feel hopeless. And so all these traditions, these pagan traditions have been created where we appeal to some kind of spirits, because when God's being taken out of your life, you have to ask the spirits, except the spirits are not in any way favorable towards people.
Yeah.
So we think we can appease them by, so it's either with those cookers, those men dressed in, we thought we're going to either scare off the spirits, or maybe we'll, we'll get their favor, so that we, everything evil is being, I guess, purged out of the land, so that there's a good harvest from next year, favorable weather, and
Mhm.
and so it's really believing in luck, and we want luck, we want good things. The thing is, though, as a child, I've always been very sensitive to the spiritual realm. I knew I was terrified by this, because I knew this was not chasing evil spirits away. That was attracting the
Well,
evil
it's the whole
spirits.
idea of putting a red string around your wrist in Kabbalah, and that somehow or another that it's going to do, parents would put that around their
My
children.
cousin did that with
Yeah,
her
with
son.
her son, and somehow or another that this demon, this evil spirit, is going to be afraid of this red string.
So we are all aware that there is this spiritual world, and we are all aware that there's evil, and it's interesting. Why are we focused on evil and appeasing evil, rather than focusing on good and appeasing God, who brings the goodness, and so back to reality and unreality, a lot of our beliefs are based on how we feel. If we feel fear, then we face demons, and you can only face demons with God on your side. You can only face demons with God's authority. Dressing up in animal skins and putting bells around and creating awful noise is not going to chase those demons away. That is not how the spiritual realm works.
It might chase the mother-in-law away, it's not a bad outcome, but it's still not exactly the one that you entirely.
It's a family show.
Oh, right.
All righty. So
I want you to go back to this conversation that you had with this mom a couple of days ago, because we were talking about this whole unreality thing, and the issue that she was facing, because this mother got in touch with us about perhaps putting one of her children in a pod.
Yeah.
And it was a very long conversation.
Well, and this is one thing we're noticing through our school pods, is that a lot of families are indeed facing a lot of decision, facing a lot of hardships. A lot of things are coming against them.
Mhm.
And so this mom just really needed someone to talk to, because she didn't feel that going to the school board, going to her doctor, going to anyone was really producing any kind of solutions and answers in her life. And so, but anyways, so what the conversation was about is that the school system has not worked for her daughter for many years now.
And she's at the point where
well, her daughter is unable to learn in school, because there's just so much trauma from being in an environment that is not conducive to the way she functions.
Yeah.
And so she's fallen behind academically. She doesn't feel that there's anything there for her to help her feel comfortable, to help her feel peaceful.
Yeah.
While trying to learn. There's just a lot going on in schools, and on top of everything, budgets are being cut for special needs. We are, because of the hardships they're facing, there are more children with special needs. I think at some point the word special, like the expression special need, is going to become an oxymoron, because everybody has a need that is not being addressed now, pretty much in a public school system.
But the point I wanted to make was that how is she going to school every day?
So every day, this mom says to me that every day when she's sending her daughter to school, her daughter says, "I quit school today. I don't want to go back. I quit today." And her mom, she's having some health issues. There's just all kinds of uncertainty in their life. She's unable to make a decision. She has not encountered any support in the school system. I asked her, well, is there IEP? Is there any individual education plan? Is there kind of plan to restore that child to enjoying school again, to being able to learn again. And she says, no, they're not even providing the type of paper she needs, to be able to, she's got fine motor skills, development issues, and all she needs is something to guide her writing, to guide. And so I'm finding that there are just no solutions. And so what is if this child is going to school for a long periods of time where every day she says, I don't want to be there, this child is going to go into unreality. At some point, she will start imagining things. She will start creating her own world because the world she's in is too harsh.
Yeah, and this is the whole foundation of trauma-based mind control. Not to get too deeply into that, but what they do is they torture young children with a variety of different means in order to get them to disassociate, and then you have dissociative something disorder. And what they do is they create an alternate persona that can then be programmed the way that they want. And you have all of these people. And if you don't think that that exists, if you think that's just a bunch of bunk, look at the Jason Bourne series, the Bourne Ultimatum.
I mean, it is a movie, but it's actually,
But again, it's predictive programming because they're telling you what they do. And they've got a bunch of Jason Bournes out there who are super soldiers.
I will tell you, we have met people who,
well, the movie The Manchurian Candidate, same thing.
I'm just saying we have met people who have gone through some of that programming.
Yes.
God has brought them into our lives. So no matter how unrealistic it seems in the movies, it can't possibly happen, it's just fantasy. No, it's a reality. And so one thing we talked about last week, and we wanted to kind of emphasize again this week, is that as we're getting into our holidays, as we're entertaining ourselves, as we are indulging ourselves into gifts and things like that, we normally wouldn't do that because we know financially is not very good choices. We know that overindulging and being materialistic is not a good choice.
And why are we getting gifts?
And why are we getting gifts? There's no good reason other than people wanting to indulge themselves because they're feeling down at this time of the year. And we're creating this Santa Claus person, and all these children are having pictures, and we read the part in the book where I don't have one happy picture of my childhood next to Santa Claus. It creeped me out every time anyway. So it's like we're teaching our kids it's okay to sit in a stranger's lap. I mean, things we normally say are not okay for our children all of a sudden have become okay during this season. And so we're working against ourselves really at this time because we want to teach our children to be wise in this world. We want to teach them to judge rightly what's before them so they can make good choices. And not only are we putting them in schools that are emotionally harming them, but then we're creating those holidays that are alternative realities. So what are we promoting? And this is one thing I wanted us to chat about during this show, and I wanted to challenge parents at this time, is what are we modeling to our children? If we start, for this friend of our son's to say, I'm not going to tell my mom I know Santa Claus is not real.
And how old was she? She was what, 9 years old, 8 years old, 9 years old, something like that?
She was 9, I think, when we met her. So 9 or 10. I mean,
if parents...
No, she was older than that, actually, because she's in high school now. So
well, she's older than Yossi.
Yes, she is.
Okay, so she was like
about
11.
10 or 11 year old, and a very sweet girl. But the fact is, now we are afraid to tell someone, I know what the truth is.
Because it's going to wreck their little charade that they've been playing to make themselves feel good. So
here is just really appeal to parents. Why do we have so many furries, transgender children, people who identify as something else other than what they were born? We as a society are flocking towards unreality. And I think we need to stop.
Well, and if you look at everything that's become popular, let's say on TV over the past, you have reality TV. What is real about it? There's nothing real about it. The Amazing Race. It's supposed to be a race, but when you look at how it's structured,
I love HGTV. Okay. And I love all the ideas of decorating your house and renovating and all that stuff. And do you know how many people I've met who's like, oh yeah, I've been part of the show. It's not real. It's all staged. And well, duh, I know. Like that's what TV is all about.
Yeah. But even if you look at what and we've got the whole, American Idol franchise that branched off into all these other things, X Factor and whatnot. And it's this idea that you can become, and I was actually going to play a song at the beginning of our show today, called The Grand Illusion by Styx. It was from that album name back in 1977. And the very first song on the album, and the whole album, was really about this lack of reality. And the song starts off, "Welcome to the Grand Illusion. Come on in and see what's happening. Pay your price, get your ticket for the show. The stage is set, the band starts waiting, and suddenly your heart is pounding, wishing secretly you were a star." So the whole album it's a concept album about, and one of the songs in it is about Miss America. The other one is Come Sail Away.
So you're watching people live the life you wish you had. That's what, it's not reality. I'm sorry. Unless you do something to make it reality, it is not helpful to you.
Absolutely not. And more of what we have is unreality now. Now we've got, virtual reality where you can actually put on the goggles and we're going straight into the Matrix.
And parents, you all know that getting our kids off the video games, that's another thing. Actually, our son got in trouble yesterday because I was reading this one mom had posted. She's and we've met in real life before, but on social media, she was looking for a game friend for her son who they can meet up at a certain game and play there.
And basically shoot each other. That's what most of these games are.
Criminality or whatever. Yeah. So I'm like, that's not even a nice name.
No. But even, the major chat platform that they have, Discord.
But what I'm noticing, because we've been now homeschoolers for 7 years, before
we're veterans.
We're the veteran. Before, I used to see little things like, oh, let's meet up in a park. Let's visit each other's house. It's 7 years is not that long, right? Within the 7-year span, I'm seeing now moms who want their kids to virtually meet at some game, at some platform, at something. Why?
Yeah. And if you look at what we've been told to focus on, I mean, we talked about Hollywood and how that it's, Disney's Magic Kingdom and you want to escape reality. What was Peter Pan all about? Yeah. Peter Pan was, I don't want to grow up.
And guess what? Now we have a bunch of Peter Pans that have hormone blockers and puberty blockers.
Now we're providing the physical means to do it. Before, it was just a mental thing. You couldn't help with your body getting older. But now we have things that can actually prevent you. Or if you don't like your reality because someone told you that your reality wasn't good, then you can change your reality because, hey, everything is subjective and everything is malleable. Everything is fluid. Gender is fluid. Let me tell you something. Gender is not fluid. And, one of the things that we abide by is that if you want to deceive yourself, fine. But if the moment you ask me to enter into your deception, I have the right to opt out.
If you were born a male, we will treat you as a male and you can pretend to be whatever you want. I'm not going to do it with you.
Yeah.
And that's where people say, oh, you're a hater. No, we love people. We're just not going to go into pretend mode with them. And we're going to deal with reality. We choose to deal with reality. That's all.
That's why we don't celebrate birthdays, make a big deal about them. We acknowledge that, okay, we were born this day. It was the day we came into this world. But we don't go through the cake and all this other stuff. Why? Because then that makes it all about me. And the question I always ask, well, what did you do to come into this world that we should be celebrating you?
Again, it is indulging ourselves. Yeah. It is avoiding, and the world is a harsh world. The reality that we're facing is harsh. But then how helpful it is to slip into unreality to anyone.
And so what do we focus on? I was certainly a big part of this at one time, professional sports. And you get this idea that, my team, your team? well, wait a minute.
You have nothing to do with that team.
You have nothing to do with this team. You
just
sit there on your couch, you watch it. The players that play for your team, most of them don't even come from where you come from. You look at Major League Baseball, for instance. Toronto Blue Jays are the only Canadian team in baseball since the Expos left 20 years ago. And I would bet you would be hard pressed to find one Canadian, much less Torontonian, on the team. And yet,
shaking. Yeah.
And yet, we live and die by. People are fanatical. Now you look at NFL games and you got fights breaking out between fans of different jerseys, when the reality is people get fanatical, that's where the word fan comes from, over something that is meaningless.
It's not reality.
It's not going to change.
Why did you stop watching professional sports? Because you realize all that was set up as well. It was not a real true...
it's all fixed. Professional sports is entirely fixed, and the whole point is so that a whole bunch of people can make money on the betting.
So we have an illusion that there is a reality. And so we were all suckered into some of these, be it sports, be it concerts, be it, for me, it was horoscopes. Every morning I would open the horoscope, and that determined my day. And so you know what? That made me a victim of my circumstances. I had no control how my day's going to go, because my horoscope told me this is what's going to happen.
And horoscopes are what? Based on stars, the alignment of stars and stuff like that. And what are stars? They're big balls of gas.
Yeah.
So you might as well just go ask the fireplace what's going to happen to you tonight or tomorrow.
We just have created this sophisticated thought, to make unreality sophisticated.
But going back to the whole professional sport example. And it was, I can't remember who it was. It was either H.G. Wells or H.P. Lovecraft. Both of them start with H. Yeah. And they were both occultists. And one of them, I think it was Wells. But what this person talked about was that we were going to create tribalism. Yeah. And tribalism was based on professional sports. So you are now going to get emotionally attached for the team that you are voting for. A lot of times,
again, emotional manipulation.
It's emotional manipulation. And it has nothing to do with reality. Because you know something? It's great. Listen, I love to watch professionals. I love to watch people who excel at what they do. I did martial arts for a lot of years. And so I love to watch martial arts movies and watch the skill level, because I can really appreciate when I see these guys doing stuff that I can't do that.
What it takes to even make those moves.
But and so the same thing with professional sports. I love to watch Austin Matthews on the Toronto Maple Leafs score a hat trick and stuff like that, because his skill level is unbelievable. But you know something? At the end of the game, it doesn't change my reality one little bit. As a matter of fact, I just wasted 2 to 3 hours watching the sports game instead of reading a book or listening to an audio or doing some studying.
Because we ask people, how are you doing? I'm busy. With what?
You can be busy all day long and not accomplish anything worthwhile.
And I did see someone put on social media, there were these, I don't even know what sports fans were there. They were all like shouting and crazy faces, and it said, what if people were that passionate about something that actually mattered in this world? What if we started looking into something that actually will change our world, will change our society, will matter, will make our life different, rather than wishing to be different? We can make it different.
And what's really interesting is that it is acceptable to be fanatical about sports.
But not religion?
About religion or even business. If you throw yourself headlong into your business and you're not going to social events and you're sacrificing in order to grow your business, all of a sudden, you're imbalanced and you need to be balanced. What do we need to be balanced for? I want to be balanced between my rest and my time with God, my time with my family. But honestly, spending time at a family get-together where there's usually going to be a bunch of drama and politics going on anyway, if I am sacrificing that time in order to build my future and my destiny, my legacy, why is that frowned upon? Because you can be fanatical about sports because you don't have anything to do with it.
Yeah. And we need to focus on relationships. And so if someone in our family needs, that relationship, that comes before anything else.
Yeah.
But like we spoke last week, I don't think you can build good, healthy relationships based on fantasy, make believe.
No.
I understand some people say we're creating traditions, but are your traditions good?
Mm-hmm.
Are they preparing your children for the reality of life, or are they helping them slip into unreality? And so I think the way our society is doing this reality TV, the sports, the stars and all that stuff, movies, this, that, and the other thing, what is happening now for the next generation is not a surprise. Our generation has spent a long time trying to escape into some kind of way, and so now our children, they don't even know who they are, and I mean, they're taught to question what they are. And I think it's a good thing to question things, but not to question the reality and the facts. Question the things that somebody says and check those out. Check what the reality, we have these fact checkers.
Mm-hmm.
It's not fact.
No.
It is a specific agenda that is being checked against, any narrative that's being said. Science. I mean, I love science. I studied science. I am sad with what has become of science. It's no, science was supposed to be objective, neutral, and it is not, because science now kind of follows money.
Well, that's scientism, and that's a religion.
Right. And so
when Anthony Fauci came out 2 years ago and he said that he was science, what he was doing is he was saying is that I am the creator of science.
I'm going to tell you what to
I
believe.
control science. He's declaring himself to be a god.
Yeah. So and that's another thing. There's a lot of philosophies nowadays that we believe that we are all gods. We are not.
Nope.
We're not gods. We're created human beings. We do have a purpose in this world. We have a lot of gifting that is given to us. We have a great purpose, and we can accomplish great things, but we are not gods. And we have to make sure that we are very careful of the pride that can arise within us.
We're created in the image of God. And, I heard one person say one time, there are three things that I know. There is a God. I'm not him, and neither are you.
Yeah. No, we're not.
We are not. We're created in his image. We are creatures. Therefore, we are created. We have a beginning and we have an end. God has no beginning, has no end. And so reality, and here is where we get back to where all of this came from. Where did all this unreality come from? Why is everybody so focused on distracting themselves? Because in Genesis chapter 1 and verse 2, the very beginning of the Bible, it says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And then you have what's called the gap theory. And there are certain theologians, I subscribe to this theory myself, is that there was a period of time between Genesis 1:1, 1:2. And that you have the rebellion of Lucifer, who is the archangel, and he rebelled against God, and that there was this war in heaven. And so then you have the world, it says in Genesis 1:2, and the earth, most translations will say, became formless, or the world was formless and void. And so if you read it that way, it was like, well, God created
God doesn't create anything without form, without any kind of design to
Isaiah 45:17 tells us specifically God does not create in form. And so it says that instead of the world was formless and void, it says the world became formless and void, and that's the more correct pronunciation. I have an entire book focused on just those two words there. And so what happened is that one of the definitions of the Hebrew word of tohu vohu is unreality. And so what Satan does, what the devil does to us,
that's where it comes from,
is he brings unreality to us.
Well,
and everything out there is a deception. What does he do? He is a liar, it says.
And everybody who is now starting to seek for truth know that we are being lied to by people who worship Satan.
Oh yeah, they are Luciferian, and they're the United Nations comes right out and says that we are a Luciferian organization.
Okay.
And if you don't worship Satan, then you're not going to be part of the club.
So I'm telling you now, celebrating Krampus, celebrating all kinds of trying to dance for spirits is not going to make Satan go away. It is
It's
only
inviting them in.
it's
It says holiday.
if you do not know the truth, the Bible says the truth will set you free.
If you abide in my word and you keep my commandments, you will know the truth. And then the truth will
So
set you
if you
free.
live your life according to the truth of the Bible, you will be set free. And you know what? If you don't believe it, try it out and find out.
The truth will only set you free if you abide by the one who is the truth. And Yeshua says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Nobody comes to the Father but by me. So we have here an entire system that is being controlled by a group of people who want to,
Who are inspired by Satan,
who
ultimately.
worship him, who serve
Yeah.
him. And I mean, if you look, even if you look at the founders of atheism, Charles Darwin and Karl Marx, these men were not atheists. They
No.
did believe in God.
They were very well aware of the spiritual.
They are in rebellion against God. They hated Karl Marx. It's very clear. I mean, in some of his writings, he hated God.
Well, we a couple of shows ago we talked about the Satan After School Club for kids.
Oh yeah,
and it comes from the Temple of Satan. Was it what
the
was
Satanic Temple?
The Satanic Temple.
Yeah,
and they didn't say it directly, but they really insinuated that God is a tyrant who needs to be rebelled against, and Satan is gonna free you up. I mean, he is a champion for those who want to be.
The concept of Satan's not real.
He's
but he's still believing in him or
he's a
following.
mythological character.
Yeah.
Is what they called it. So you're spending your entire effort in the name of a mythological character who is not really real. Again, that makes you someone who follows unreality.
Yeah.
If all your worldly effort is in the name of someone who you don't even believe that, well, I know they believe he's real, but they're just presenting it because it might be too offensive.
Yeah.
To say, oh, Satan's real, because he's not a nice guy. I mean, it's but anyway, it is a fight of good and evil and reality and unreality. I think I just really urge a lot of families, and if you're a parent, to really seek of the things we allow in our home, the things we do in our home, the things we teach our children at home, the things we subject them, the things we don't address, or the things we do address in our daily life. If we don't address something that's an issue, then we are not really teaching our children how to find a solution to a problem, how to deal with their problems. And if we ourselves try to escape, then we're teaching children how to escape. And then there's no wonder that they're into video games all the time. That's where they're escaping. You have your unreality, you have your music shows or whatever, you have your sports shows or whatever. Well, your kids are going into their video games. You are, you want to present yourself to be a god and have these higher ideas of yourself. Well, your children then will choose to be something else. They might choose to be a cat or a dog or whatever. We have to be very careful.
So that's just basically Halloween all year round.
Well, and this is, what is coming on right now. And we were talking about how Halloween's getting longer and longer, the whole focus on it is taking bigger and bigger chunk of our year. But the thing is, we are starting to now dress up, and to make it okay to dress up in weird costumes and things like that all throughout the year. So we now have Halloween all throughout the year. And the whole point of Halloween is to scare someone. I hope you're scared, because that's a normal reaction to what, and I don't mean scared, like paralyzed scared. I mean appalled. I mean distressed. Like what I mean is not to be okay with what's happening and saying, you know what, I'm progressive. I think I'm going to embrace this. And you just this past week had a conversation with someone whose church is starting to debate whether we as loving Christians are going to show more love if we are going to embrace the whole transgenderism and the whole sexual divergence of different ways. I think we need to go back to the definition of truth and love, because You as
Love-
parents, so those of you who I'm talking to right now and are parents, does love mean allowing your children to do whatever they want, regardless of consequences, how it's going to affect them, who it's going to hurt? Is that love, allowing to do anything they feel like? I'm pretty certain we're going to agree that that is not the definition of love.
No.
Because we, as parents who love our children, we are to warn them about natural consequences to certain choices that are going to happen. Instead of, oh, my child is going to be sad if I say no about this. Well, yeah, because what they're going to be even more sad with the consequences of that bad choice that we allowed them to do because we wanted to be loving parents.
We constantly have to deal with people who are well into their adult years, who are still not dealing with reality. And the consequences of not dealing with reality can be harsh when you're younger. They can be catastrophic when you're older because the number of people it affects and the level of effect is much, much greater. We had a congregation a number of years ago, and we were dealing with a lot of people that were in their 50s and 60s who still had not really grown up and matured. And we were having to deal with a whole bunch of issues where they
saw themselves as victims. And so they had absolutely no power to change anything that happened to them years ago in their life.
Yeah.
And they remained in that state, poor me, poor me. No. You cannot keep on thinking about yourself that way.
That's not reality. Because the reality is, regardless of what happened to you earlier,
this is no longer happening, and you have the ability to heal, and you have ability to.
But it doesn't define who you are now.
No.
If you let it define who you are now, then you are denying the reality is that you've been set free. You're free from that. Whatever it was, it may have been tragic, and we all have things in our past that were hurtful to us, people who betrayed us. I mean, we go through being in ministry like we are. We're constantly having to deal with people who disappoint us and betray us, and
because we put ourselves out there.
And we put ourselves out there. And you know what? We have to get over it. We have to move on. We have to forgive them, and we have to realize that we have been set free, because when Yeshua rose from the dead, he conquered the grave.
So we need to focus on the truth, on good things.
Yeah.
And that's what is going to set us free. Creating unreality is never a way to really help ourselves in any tangible way. And the reality is harsh. Yes, it is. But you know what? When we face it, when we deal with it, and when we start trying to think positive and think, what is good about this?
Romans 8:28 tells us that all things work together for good for those who love God and for whom he has chosen for his purpose. And Romans 8:37 says that we are to be more than overcomers. It doesn't matter what our circumstances are. You don't need to go into unreality in order to defeat your circumstances. What you need is God, and you need his power, because he has conquered everything and he's given us the ability to do it too.
Yeah. And as a family, if there are some tough decisions you need to make, sit down and make those tough decisions. Everyone has to sacrifice. And it's called delayed gratification. Sometimes right now we have to sacrifice things so that in the long term we can have better results. Because if we want all the good things now, then in the long term, we are going to get not very good results, because we are sacrificing our future for our present comfort.
Yep.
So think about the next generation. Think about us parents. What are we modeling? Are we modeling problem solving, conflict resolution, strength, or are we modeling escapism and avoiding of reality? So,
and you can't avoid reality. Eventually, it is going to catch up with you. Ask anybody who's got credit card debt.
Yeah.
And we'll deal with that as another subject. Anyway, we got to go.
Yes.
It's been great being with you. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful week. And we'll look forward to seeing you. Come visit us at schoolpodscanada.com, or reach out to us if you have any questions about your kids. And we'll look forward to seeing you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.
We are richly blessed to bring you what we believe is the fullest, most diverse, yet up-to-date progressive teachings, discussion, and prayer programming you can find anywhere on this planet. Be sure to take the tour of the MessianicLambRadio.com website. I'm Susan Hoogie, thanking you for joining us on the Messianic Lamb Video Network.